How does a tax sale work? In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how a tax sale works, how to get the lists, how to evaluate the properties, and how to become a winning bidder at tax sale. I'm going to show you actual properties bought at tax sale, including a house that I bought for, get this, $275 for a whole house. I'm also going to tell you about the surprising risks that are hidden under the surface, but if you don't know about them, you can really get your clock cleaned. So I'm going to make sure that I tell you where those risks are, and most importantly, how you can avoid them. And be sure to stay on till the end, because at the end, I'm going to give you a free resource where you can learn more, and you're going to learn a unique way to buy properties at tax sale where you never have to compete with another bidder, and you can get them for the taxes owed. Real estate is sold at tax sales because someone didn't pay their real estate taxes. Typically, the taxes are 3 to 4 years behind, and the thing about that is the bidding starts at the taxes owed, and that's usually about 15% of the home value. Because if you add up the taxes that will be over, say, 4 years, that's about 8% of the value of the house, and then you say double them for penalties and interest, which are high in taxes. So your starting bid on a $400,000 house, your starting bid's going to be about 15% of that, which is $55,000 to $60,000. So imagine being able to buy a $400,000 house for $50,000 or $60,000. That's exciting, right? So that's why people go to tax sales. They're a really popular way to get houses, can be really terrific, but there are a lot of things you need to know before you get into the tax sale buying business, because there can be problems you don't know about. So let's start with the process. So the first thing you want to do is you have to get the list. So let's talk about that. Very easy to do with a Google search. So for example, if you put in a Google search with the county, the state, and just tax sale list, that will pull it up. For example, if we put in DeKalb County, Georgia tax sale list, you'll come to this tax commissioner's website. You can see it on your screen. And then you can see there's a link to the tax sale list. Click on that link, just like you see I'm doing. Click on that link, and that brings up the list. And the list is so cool. The list tells you when the sale is, it tells you the opening bid, and it tells you the address of the property. Really straightforward, very easy to do, and that's your list. But here's your first catch. Your first catch is that this list will have lots of properties on it, but most of those properties are never going to actually be sold at the sale. Now, why is that? Because people catch up on their taxes at the last minute. They file bankruptcy at the last minute to stop the sale. So a good 90% of those properties are never going to get sold. So when you see 100 properties on a list, that doesn't mean there's nothing. There's probably 10 or 15 that actually are going to be sold and that you could actually bid on. So the question is, when you're faced with that, how do you manage a list like that? And I'll give you a really easy way to do it. What we're going to do first when we get the list, and the list will come out anywhere from 30 to 45 days prior to the sale. Get the list early, and then just go on Google Maps. You can pull it up on your computer, Google Maps. That's the easiest way to do this. Pull it up on your computer, and then type in the address of the property, and then use Google Street View to see the property in the street. So Street View, if you're not familiar with it, if you look on your screen to see it, you drag that little image of the person onto the street, and then it'll show you the address of the property. And what you want to do is look at the property, and you're just asking yourself, is this a property I'd be interested in? You're not trying to figure out whether you're actually going to bid on it yet, but is it one you're interested in, or is it one you want to cross off your list? And then rotate the little view around, just like you see I'm doing on screen. Rotate the view around and take a look at the street. If the street's a thumbs up, great. If it's a thumbs down, then cross that off your list. All that you're really trying to do at this point is eliminate all the ones you're not interested in. So we're going to go through all 100 properties. We're going to get rid of, say, half the properties. So you're down to 50. And then your next step is you're going to register for the sale. Most of these sales these days require pre-registration. It means you fill in a pretty simple form, you sign it, and you send it in. Sometimes you have to give a small deposit, maybe $500. You have to set up an ACH so you can send them money. So you have some setup things to do. And in order to qualify for the sale, generally these things need to be in a week or two before the sale. So if you try to register the day of the sale, they typically won't let you and you're not allowed to bid. So we want to take care of this while we've got this downtime. So we do that. The other things, you're going to fill in the forms. You're going to see that often they won't let you bid if you're behind in real estate taxes on your own properties, or if you have a lot of outstanding building code violations. These are pretty simple things. They're very clear directions. They tell you exactly who can bid and who can't. But generally speaking, most people could bid unless you're having a lot of building code violations or far behind in real estate taxes yourself. You can bid. So get your registration done in advance. And then about 4 days before the sale, you pull the list again a second time, meaning do the Google search, DeKalb County, Georgia tax sale list, pull the list up, and then see what's left on the list. Because thankfully, what the counties will do for you is they'll update the list as it goes so that 3 or 4 days before the sale, 80% of them will have dropped off. So instead of 100, you now see 20. Now, some of those are still going to drop off because you still have people that go in at the very last minute, but at least you have a more manageable list now. Now what you're going to do is your next step, which is go and drive the properties. Either yourself or through someone else, you have to have someone physically put some eyes on that property. Because, of course, Google Street View isn't going out every day to take pictures of every property in America. You can't do that. So you need to go and drive by it. When you drive by, you want to inspect it from the street because there's no open house. There's no property tours. You can't call up like the auctioneer and say, I want to go through that house. You can't do that in this kind of a sale. So we have to look at it from the street and evaluate it as best you can. So what I like to do is I look at the roof. Is the roof straight and flat across, or is the roof bowed? Does the roof have any holes in it, like it had a fire and the fireman took an axe through the roof and put water in there? Is there any sign of smoke under the eaves? How does the roof look? Does the roof have a blue tarp on it to keep water out? You have to assume that these houses are neglected, because if someone couldn't pay their real estate taxes for 3 or 4 years, well, they're also not maintaining the property, right? They're not cleaning their gutters, they're not fixing the roof. They don't have the money for it, so they're not doing that. You also want to look to see if the property looks occupied or not. Now, if it's occupied, in one sense, that's good, because if you're in a northern climate, the property probably hasn't frozen and it's probably in a little better shape. Because if you're in a northern climate and the house sits vacant over a winter, the pipes freeze, they burst, it gets really bad, and water can be as damaging as fire. So that's the good part about occupied. The bad part is that if it's occupied, you got to deal with the occupant. And the auctioneer does not deliver the property to free and clear of occupants. That's up to you to do. So if you get an occupied property, either you've got to give some cash for keys, or if it's tenant, start collecting rent with them. Or if it's an old owner, you probably have to evict them. And that can be expensive and time consuming. Typically, that's something called an ejectment action. It takes about 6 months. Total cost of that could easily be $10,000 to $12,000 if you have to move them out, which you often do at the end. So that's a risk factor. That's one of the reasons the pricing is so low. Because if you're buying, that $400,000 house, you're buying it for $200,000 and it needs $100,000 in fix-up. Well, that's a good deal. That's $100,000 off. So you may have to deal with some nonsense, right? That's just the way that it is. So you look and figure out what you can. Look to see if the windows are boarded up. And if you're feeling bold, which if you're in this world, you probably do need to be bold, go up and knock on the door. And when you're knocking on the door, as best you can, look, if you can see in any of the windows, at least peek as best you can. I'm not saying go pull yourself up to look in the window like Peeping Tom. It's not that. Just as you're walking up the walkway, look at everything you can, be as good of an observer as you can, knock on the door, be brave, and see what you can learn. If someone's there, they'll open the door and you can ask them, say, hey, I'm looking at this house, it's going for tax sale, are you the owner, are you a tenant? And you can learn lots about it. Heck, one of my friends, a guy I'm going to introduce you to in a couple minutes, he bought a house recently at tax sale where it was rented for $800 a month. And he bought it for something like $2,500, I think. He'll tell you the story himself, but I think it was $2,500 for the house. So basically, he worked out a deal with the tenants. They paid him the rent. In 3 months, he paid for the entire house. In 4 months, he had some change left over. So it's pretty amazing. So be bold, knock on that door, learn as much as you can about the house. If there's a tenant, ask if you can go inside, take a look at it, ask about the condition. And I found people that are tenants are generally pretty friendly because they want to stay there and they want to work out something with you. So ask them what kind of problems are there with the house. If it's a former owner, ask them what their thoughts are. Are they going to fix it, or what are they going to do? So then, don't get tied up for too long, because you have to get through all 20 or so houses that are left. You've got 3 days to do it, so it's not too bad, because if you started 4 days in advance, you can go the 3 days before, and the 4th day you'll go to the auction. So your goal here in driving around is assess condition, find out about occupancy, check the neighborhood out while you're there, and also if you see any houses that are for sale, find out about them. See how much they cost, how much are they asking for it, how long has it been on the market. That's going to give you information about market value. So gather that information. The information is going to be incomplete, because in a tax sale, that's just the way it is. It's incomplete information. And please, one major tip, do not buy commercial properties at a tax sale auction. I'm a real estate attorney. I'm telling you, I'm not your attorney, but I'm giving you this advice. Do not buy commercial properties at tax sales, because if there's any kind of an environmental problem, any kind of a spill, chemicals in the ground, anything like that, if you buy it, you're stuck with the cleanup cost. And there was a famous case from where I'm from in Pennsylvania called Mirabile Beverage that, funnily enough, I ran into in my environmental law class. These guys had bought a property, a paint factory, at a tax sale, got a great deal on it, amazing. But as soon as they bought it, the EPA contacted them and said, hey, there's some open barrels of chemicals. You got to seal those, get them carted away by a licensed hauler, and certify that's done. And these guys said, oh no, we don't want to do this. And they backed out of the auction. That auction in Pennsylvania, you would buy it in September and not get the deed until April. So they backed out. So they never actually took title to the property. They still had to pay the cleanup cost. If my memory is correct, it was a little over $400,000 in cleanup costs for a property they never actually took title to. So please do not take title to anything, gas station, dry cleaner, factory, anything like that, because you can't do the due diligence that would need to be done, which is called a phase 1 and probably phase 2 environmental study. You can't do that in tax sales. So, don't buy those, just skip those. I don't care what kind of a deal they look like, just skip them. Stick with the houses. So back to the houses. So you drive around, you're going to write down your notes, and you're hoping to screen out more properties. And then once you've got your list, then do some more online research on values. Look on the websites like Realtor.com and Zillow and things like that. Look to see what's for sale in the neighborhood, get an idea of pricing. You'll see places that have sold. Also, you'll probably see the property on there if it's been sold any time in the past 10 years. You'll probably see information about it. You can see some interior pictures. That's all good. Then you're ready to go to the sale, and then you go and bid. Some sales are held live. Those are good because there's less competition. Some sales are held online. It's convenient, but there's more competition. So you go and you bid at the sale. And the pricing is good, but sometimes bidders do get overly excited. So when you're at the sale, don't get auction fever. You're trying to get a deal here. You're not trying to just get a property. So make sure that you set your limit and stick to it. So if your limit is $400,000 on the house, if it gets to $401,000, drop out of the bidding. If your limit's $100,000, again, drop out of the bidding afterwards. And also remember, you have to pay cash for these properties. There are no mortgages available. Mortgage companies can't help you with these. And so you've got to have ready cash available. The terms of the auction, when you look those up along with registering to bid, you'll see when the payment is due. Generally, it's due day of sale or next day. So make sure you track that. There's not going to be any mortgage available, so have your cash ready and then go and bid. And you can get some really great deals. Now, some of the disadvantages, you typically have some title issues that need to be cleaned up. There's a place called Tax Title Services that will often offer title insurance, which is great. If Tax Title Services won't offer you title insurance, then you're going to want to do something called a quiet title action. The budget for that, $4,000 to $5,000, 4 to 6 months. You have to hire an attorney. That will get you a court-confirmed deed, meaning a judge saying that you own it, free and clear of the old owner's interest. So that's a cost. So again, you're getting a really low price, but there are issues. So if you keep in mind all those things, you should be good to go and start bidding at tax sales. Make sure that you do some more research, learn some more about this. There are courses that are out there that are great, and there's more learning to do. But I gave you the basics today. The other thing I would just share with you, do a dry run or two. Pull a list, look at some properties, see what they sold for, get an idea of what the pricing is like in your local auctions, and see what kind of deals are out there. So 1 or 2 sales, just do a dry run. I'm not saying you have to look at all 100 properties, but look at some properties, practice the Google Street View, do some drive-bys, watch the sales, see what things sell for, and then look up the properties that sold and see what kind of a deal people got. So that'll give you an idea of how your sales are doing. So with all this, there's also another way that a friend of mine invented to buy properties at tax sale that is the bomb. It is just this really great method. He found a way to buy properties after the tax sale that are still available that you can get with no competitive bidding at all. You just go, you have lists of properties, and his lists of tens of thousands of properties. You just go, you get the list, you sort of look through them, pick the ones that you like, and then you just go buy them, just paying the past taxes due. It's unbelievable. It's getting absolutely the best deals. You don't have to worry about competition. You don't have to worry about registering to bid. You don't have to worry about driving around or say, I looked at 100 properties and I got to bid on 2. There's none of that. These are just lists of properties that are available, and it's really a great thing. So I want to introduce you to my friend. I sat down with him and did an interview. It's about 25 minutes long. He is a genius. He's been doing this since the 1990s. He has this completely dialed in. He's built an empire through tax sales, and the way that he does it is different than everybody else and much, much better. So I want to introduce you to him. So I'm going to put a link to that video where he and I sat down. So click on the link if you see a link on your screen. If you don't, it'll be down below in the description. That just means your browser is not supporting the link. Click on one of those and go and watch that video, because you're going to learn a lot from a true master who's doing this in a different way, which I really love. I think it's great, and I think you're going to love it too. So go check out that video, and I'll see you over there at that interview.